The most powerful move you'll ever make is the one nobody sees coming. That truth isn't just a clever line. It is a law of life. Think of it. Every time you announce your next big plan, every time you post about a dream you haven't built yet, you give away a piece of your strength. Talking feels good, but it doesn't create progress. It gives you a hit of temporary confidence, like sugar to the body. But soon it fades, and you're left with nothing to show. The real shift begins when you stop feeding on that quick satisfaction and start making the quiet decision to act without telling anyone. Most people are busy performing. They talk about what they'll do, but the stage is empty. They want applause before the work is done. They think public words equal private progress, but the two couldn't be further apart. That is the trap, mistaking noise for results. If you want to break free, you must close your mouth, look at yourself in the mirror, and say, enough. Enough of the pretending. Enough of the talking. Enough of wasting time on appearances. The opening move of transformation is inward. Nobody else has to know. You don't need permission from friends. You don't need approval from family. You don't need applause from strangers online. The only person you need to face is yourself. And that conversation happens in silence. In the stillness of your mind, you decide to get serious. You decide that your life is too valuable to be wasted on cheap validation. That's where the story begins. Why is silence so powerful? Because silence strips away distraction. It eliminates the chatter of others and even the noise of your own excuses. When you stop broadcasting, you stop pretending. You can no longer hide behind words. You're forced to confront action, or the lack of it. In silence, truth shows up. And truth, though uncomfortable, is the only soil where growth can root. Think of the difference between a seed planted deep underground and a firework launched into the sky. The firework explodes, flashes bright, gathers attention for a few seconds, and then disappears into smoke. The seed, on the other hand, is buried, unseen, quiet. But given time, it pushes roots, grows upward, and becomes something lasting, a tree that will stand for years. Talking is fireworks. Silence is the seed. Which one do you want your life to be? When you choose silence, you reclaim your energy. You no longer waste it convincing people. You use it building yourself. Instead of performing, you begin producing. You stop chasing claps and start stacking small victories no one knows about. At first, it feels strange. People may even wonder why you've gone quiet. Let them wonder. Their curiosity is not your burden. The only thing that matters is that you are building a foundation, stone by stone, habit by habit. Silence also builds inner strength. Imagine walking into a room where you don't say a word, yet your presence is undeniable. That kind of authority doesn't come from bragging. It comes from the work you've done privately, the discipline you've forged when no one was watching. Silence creates mystery, but more importantly, it creates substance. People can sense when someone has put in the work. And the irony is, the quieter you are, the louder your results eventually sound. Here's the hard truth. Talking is easy. Talking feels like progress, but it's counterfeit. Real progress begins the moment you go quiet. The moment you decide you'd rather fix your habits than explain them. The moment you'd rather wake up early than post about waking up early. The moment you'd rather cut a distraction than defend it. That's the shift. It's not glamorous. It doesn't get likes, but it gets results. Now pause for a second. Ask yourself, How much time have you spent talking about change versus actually changing? Be honest. Think about all the announcements, all the explanations, all the conversations where you told people what you were going to do. Now compare that to the time you spent actually doing it. For most people, the ratio is tragic, and that's why most people stay stuck, but you don't have to. You can reverse the ratio. You can decide today that you will talk less and do more. You can declare nothing publicly, but commit everything privately. That decision is what separates average from exceptional. It's not talent. It's not luck. It's not opportunity. It's the willingness to shut your mouth and get serious. When you make that decision, the excuses lose their grip. You stop needing someone to clap for you before you act. You stop waiting for the perfect time. You stop searching for shortcuts. You start walking, and each quiet step builds momentum. Soon you realize that silence is not a prison, but a sanctuary. In silence, you find clarity. In silence, you find your strength. In silence, you start becoming who you were meant to be, and that is the beginning of everything. No noise, no announcement. Just you, your decision, and the quiet power that comes with it. So, let me ask you directly. Are you ready to choose silence over noise? Are you ready to stop performing and start producing? If you are, then this is where your new story begins. Quietly, consistently, and without needing to prove anything to anyone. Because the only proof that matters is the life you build. Take a breath. Feel the weight of this choice. It doesn't need to be loud. It doesn't need to be shared. It only needs to be real. From this moment on, silence is your ally. Focus is your weapon. And results will be your voice. As we move forward, keep this in mind. Deciding in silence is only the first step. The next challenge is to build daily discipline, to wake up tomorrow and the day after, and the day after that, and show up quietly, relentlessly. That is where the story leads us next. You made the decision in silence, that private vow to stop talking and start building. Now comes the hard part, showing up every single day. Discipline is the bridge between who you are and who you want to be. And that bridge is built plank by plank, day after day, often when no one is watching and no one is clapping. This is where most people fail. They want transformation, but they don't want repetition. They want results, but they don't want routines. They love the idea of being disciplined, but hate the reality of doing the boring work. That's why so many restart their journey every Monday, or every new year, or after every burst of motivation. But the truth is plain. Real progress doesn't come from flashes of inspiration. It comes from rhythms of discipline. Think about it. Motivation is like the weather. Unpredictable, inconsistent, outside your control. Discipline is like architecture. Deliberate, structured, built to last. If you rely on motivation, you'll quit the moment you feel tired. But if you build discipline, you'll act regardless of how you feel. That's the real difference between dreamers and doers. Daily discipline starts small. 1 hour of focused work every day adds up to over 350 hours in a year. Enough to learn a new skill, write a book, launch a business, or completely transform your health. The secret isn't intensity, it's consistency. Not working like a hero once a month, but grinding like a craftsman every day. When nobody notices, keep going. When it feels boring, keep going. When you doubt yourself, keep going. That persistence is what creates compound growth. Like money invested with interest, each small daily action multiplies over time. Miss too many days, and the momentum breaks. But string those days together, and the results become undeniable. It won't always feel exciting, and that's the point. If discipline always felt good, everyone would have it. Discipline tastes bitter at first, but regret tastes far worse. Regret comes from skipping the hard things, from putting off the work, from waiting for a magical, perfect moment that never arrives. People live decades in regret because they confused convenience with commitment. Don't be one of them. Imagine your life as a building. Each day of discipline lays another brick. Some days you'll place one brick neatly. Other days you'll stack 10. Some days it'll feel crooked, clumsy, messy. But over time, the wall rises. And when you step back years later, you'll see the structure you built. Not because you were fast, but because you were faithful. The challenge is to design your own rhythm. You don't need to copy someone else's 4 a.m. routine. You don't need to mimic an influencer's habits. You need to find the pace that fits your life and then stick to it relentlessly. For some, it's waking up earlier. For others, it's cutting distractions. For many, it's learning to use small blocks of time wisely instead of wasting them scrolling. What matters is that your habits align with your mission. Write them down. Break them into daily steps. Then honor them like sacred appointments. Discipline is not about feeling like doing it. It's about keeping the promise you made to yourself. Each time you keep that promise, your self-respect grows. And each time you break it, your confidence erodes. That's why daily discipline is not just about outcomes, it's about identity. You are training yourself to become someone who follows through. And here's something powerful. When you work daily in silence, you no longer need validation. You no longer need accountability partners watching your every move. You stop waiting for feedback, and you start trusting your own rhythm. That trust becomes self-confidence, the kind that doesn't depend on applause. But be warned, discipline is often lonely. There will be mornings when everyone is asleep and you're grinding. There will be weekends when others are partying and you're studying. There will be nights when nobody understands why you're so focused. That's normal. You don't need them to understand. You're not doing this for them. You're doing it for the person you are becoming. Each silent morning, each hidden hour, each ignored distraction is a deposit into your future. And while the world doesn't notice now, one day it will. But by then, you won't even crave their attention. You'll already have built your confidence from within. So here's the challenge. Stop thinking in weeks. Start thinking in years. Stop chasing fast results. Start building lasting change. Progress is not a sprint. It's a long march. Each day you show up, you prove to yourself that you're serious. Each day you add another brick to your foundation. And that foundation will hold when storms come. If you want to transform, this is the formula. Stay quiet, stay consistent, stay disciplined. No noise, no excuses, just steady work. That's how average lives become extraordinary. Through daily actions nobody saw, stacked quietly into results everybody will see. The decision to be silent was step 1. Daily discipline is step 2. But there's another trap waiting just ahead. The urge to prove yourself. Many people who build discipline still sabotage it by constantly explaining, posting, or bragging. The next part of our journey is about escaping that trap. Learning to stop proving and start doing what truly matters. Silence and daily discipline build the foundation. But even with those two in place, there's a subtle trap that can pull you back into weakness. The need to prove yourself. Many people work hard, but they waste energy trying to be seen, trying to convince, trying to explain their path to others. That need for external approval becomes a heavy chain. It doesn't move you forward, it slows you down. Think about how often people post updates about their goals, explain their routines, or broadcast their progress. On the surface, it looks like commitment. In reality, it is performance. They aren't doing the work to grow, they're doing it to be noticed. And the moment applause doesn't come, motivation fades. They become addicted to recognition, not results. This is the moment you must make a sharper choice. Stop proving, start doing. Progress is not about convincing anyone. It's about becoming better, stronger, clearer, for yourself, not for spectators. Every ounce of energy you spend on appearances is energy stolen from your actual growth. When you live for approval, you'll always be adjusting your pace to match someone else's comfort. You'll water down your effort to make others less uncomfortable. You'll second-guess yourself because their doubts become your doubts. That's no way to build a future. You don't need the world's permission. You don't need everyone to understand. You need clarity. And clarity is born in action, not explanation. Doing what really matters often doesn't look impressive. It looks like early mornings and long hours. It looks like cutting comforts. It looks like saying no when everyone else is saying yes. There's nothing glamorous about sacrifice, but it is the soil where growth takes root. People chasing attention will never endure that soil. But you will, if you choose to stop proving. Let's get real. Every time you defend your choices, every time you argue your path, you lose momentum. It's like pausing your workout to explain to the crowd why you're exercising. Pointless. The workout was the proof. The sweat was the proof. The transformation over months is the proof. Words don't build strength. Reps do. Words don't build wealth. Discipline does. Words don't build wisdom. Time and reflection do. So ask yourself, are you living to look good? Or are you living to get good? There's a massive difference. The first creates image. The second creates identity. And only identity survives storms. Here's a principle worth engraving into your mind. Results, not recognition. That's your compass. When faced with a choice between appearing successful and actually becoming successful, always pick the latter. It might mean being misunderstood for a season. It might mean being doubted. It might mean losing approval from people who never mattered in the first place. But that's the price of freedom. The freedom to stop performing and start producing. Remember this: you owe explanations to no one. Not your friends, not your neighbors, not even your family. This is your life, your mission, your race. Let your daily discipline and your quiet commitment be the proof. And when results arrive, they'll arrive in a way that no amount of talking could have delivered. Dropping the need to prove also builds resilience. If you aren't waiting for applause, you won't collapse when none comes. If you aren't chasing likes, you won't die when likes fade. If you aren't seeking validation, you won't be shattered when criticism arrives. You'll be centered, stable, grounded, because your effort is rooted in purpose, not perception. The people around you may not understand at first. They may think you've changed, and you have. Because growth means leaving behind patterns that never served you. Growth means being okay with being misunderstood. Growth means being more committed to your future self than to your current audience. Picture it. You, working quietly, not defending, not proving, just improving. Over time, that version of you becomes unshakable. That version of you doesn't need to argue, doesn't need to post, doesn't need to chase anyone's approval. That version simply lives the truth, step by step. So here's your shift. Stop trying to impress. Start trying to improve. Stop chasing applause. Start chasing progress. Stop proving. Start producing. Let this mantra settle into your bones, because when you do, you finally step into freedom. You finally reclaim the energy you've been bleeding into appearances. You finally get to invest fully into building yourself. And that's when the transformation accelerates. Quietly, steadily, invisibly. Until one day, your life speaks so loudly, no words are necessary. And this sets the stage for the next level. Building habits that last. Because once you stop proving and start doing, the focus shifts to creating private routines. Habits strong enough to shape identity. Habits that don't need applause to survive. That's where our path now turns. You've stopped proving and started doing. Now comes the deeper work, building habits that last. Habits are the invisible architecture of your life. They determine how your mornings feel, how your evenings close, and ultimately, who you become. Yet here is the danger. Many people kill their own growth by exposing habits too soon. They post about their new diet before it's rooted. They share their workout routine before they've followed it for even a month. They announce their savings goals before they've deposited a single dollar. And once they receive a taste of approval, their motivation fades because the brain thinks the reward has already been earned. That is why the strongest habits are built in private. Privacy protects growth. In silence, your habits have room to mature without interference. They can survive mistakes, setbacks, and messy beginnings without judgment. A private routine doesn't need applause to continue. It becomes part of who you are, not part of the show you put on. Think of habits as roots beneath the soil. At first, they're fragile. Too much exposure, too much digging around them, and they die before they take hold. But if you protect them, water them, nurture them quietly, they grow deep, strong, unshakable. And one day, the tree they've been feeding rises tall, and everyone can see it. But by then, the roots are already untouchable. Building habits in private also keeps you honest. When you aren't performing for an audience, you can't fake progress. You can't skip days and pretend otherwise. It's just you and the mirror. That kind of honesty is uncomfortable, but it's also where real transformation happens. Each time you keep a promise to yourself without telling anyone, you build self-trust. And self-trust is the bedrock of confidence. What does this look like in practice? It means waking up earlier without announcing it. It means reading books without posting about them. It means tracking your savings in a notebook, not on social media. It means choosing healthier meals quietly, even when nobody notices. These small, consistent actions carve a new identity. They aren't statements. They're proof. And proof doesn't need a microphone. Over time, these hidden habits form systems that carry you. At the start, you rely on willpower. It feels heavy, forced, unnatural. But if you persist, the habit shifts from decision to default. It becomes automatic. That's the turning point, when discipline turns into identity. You no longer have to think about whether to do the right thing, you simply do it. And because no one else has been involved, your growth is self-owned, unshakable, untouchable. This approach also protects you from unnecessary pressure. When you announce a new habit, you invite opinions. Some people will cheer, others will doubt. Some will remind you of every failure in your past. All of that noise distracts from the work itself. But when you stay quiet, you don't have to manage expectations. You don't owe anyone explanations. You give yourself space to stumble, to adjust, to improve, without the fear of looking like you've failed. And here's something counterintuitive. The less you talk about habits, the more likely you are to keep them. Why? Because the reward isn't external, it's internal. You begin to love the act itself. You learn to find pride in the process, not in the praise. That pride is real confidence, the kind nobody can take away because it wasn't given to you in the first place. Picture this: a year of private progress. You don't post your workouts. You don't brag about your reading. You don't announce your financial goals. But every day, you're consistent. Every day, you add one more brick. A year later, people look at you and wonder, "How did you change so much?" And you won't need to say a word. Your habits will speak louder than anything you could have announced. Let your results create the questions. Let your transformation invite curiosity. And when they ask, you won't even need to explain. The evidence will be undeniable. The new you will stand there quietly, carrying the weight of discipline that nobody saw but everyone can now feel. So remember, protect your habits. Keep them private. Nurture them until they become identity. And when the time is right, they'll reveal themselves. Not because you announced them, but because you embodied them. This is the path of quiet strength. It's not flashy, but it lasts. It's not loud, but it speaks. It's not about looking disciplined. It's about being disciplined. And in that silence, you gain a power most people will never understand. Now that you've begun to live from hidden habits, there's another frontier to face: struggle. Habits keep you steady, but challenges test you. The next step on this journey is to embrace those struggles alone, not for sympathy, not for show, but to forge resilience that no audience can grant. Your private habits are forming, anchoring you in silence. But life is not generous enough to let you pass without testing the strength of those habits. Struggle comes. Difficulty arrives. And this is where many give up, because the pain feels heavier than the promise. But here lies one of the deepest truths of growth. Struggle is not an interruption of the process. It is the process. Most people respond to hardship by reaching for sympathy or excuses. They want someone to carry the weight for them. They want an audience for their pain. But every time you broadcast your suffering, you dilute the lesson it was meant to teach you. Struggle is a private classroom. It's not meant for applause. It's meant for transformation. When challenges hit, silence becomes more critical than ever. Because silence forces you to face yourself. You can't blame. You can't perform. You can't pretend. You either endure or you quit. And in that pressure, something new is forged. The old excuses get stripped away. The weak patterns get exposed. And you're left staring at the truth. You can survive more than you think. Handling struggles alone doesn't mean refusing all help. It means refusing to outsource your growth. Yes, ask for guidance when necessary. But don't hand over your resilience to someone else. Don't make pain a performance for sympathy. Use it as fuel, sit with it, learn from it. Let it sharpen you instead of soften you. Think of steel in fire. Heat bends it, reshapes it, but in the end, the steel emerges stronger. Without fire, it would have remained weak, brittle, ordinary. Your struggles are the fire. If you let them, they'll forge you into someone unbreakable. But if you run from them, you remain soft metal, unshaped, fragile, dependent on others to hold you up. When you face struggle in silence, you learn something rare: self-encouragement. You develop the voice inside that says, "I can do this," even when no one else is around. That voice is priceless, because one day you may stand in situations where nobody else believes in you, And the only thing that carries you forward is that inner voice you built during the hardest nights. Struggle also teaches focus. Pain strips away distractions. When you're hurting, you suddenly see what matters and what doesn't. That clarity is a gift, though it doesn't feel like one in the moment. Pain reveals the areas you've ignored: bad habits, weak thinking, emotional laziness. It calls them out so you can finally deal with them. That's why silence in struggle is so powerful. You can't escape to applause. You must wrestle with yourself, and in that wrestling, you evolve. This isn't about suffering for the sake of suffering. It's about becoming strong enough that life can't break you. When you handle hardship privately, you build an internal backbone. You stop waiting for rescue. You stop depending on sympathy. You discover that you can carry yourself. And when you emerge, you walk differently. Not louder, but stronger. Not desperate for attention, but rooted in resilience. Imagine the confidence that comes from knowing you survived nights when you wanted to quit, but didn't. That you kept going when nothing made sense. That you endured storms alone and came out sharper. That kind of grit can't be faked. It can't be handed to you. It can only be earned in silence. So the next time life presses you, resist the urge to announce your pain. Resist the temptation to turn struggle into a stage play. Instead, whisper to yourself, "This is my fire. This is my shaping. This is where I grow." And keep moving forward. Quietly. Consistently. With unshakable determination. Because here's the reward. When you train yourself to endure hardship without collapsing, no future obstacle can intimidate you. Challenges don't shrink, but you grow larger. Setbacks don't vanish, but you become harder to break. You learn that storms don't stop progress. They fuel it. And you realize that your silence during the storm was not weakness, but wisdom. Struggles will never stop arriving, but you'll stop being afraid of them. You'll carry yourself with a quiet strength that others can sense but not explain. And that quiet strength will become your signature. Now, with this resilience forged, there remains one final step: letting your results speak. Not your words, not your explanations, not your justifications, your results. Because in the end, the loudest voice you will ever have is the life you've built. And that's where we're heading next. You've chosen silence. You've built daily discipline. You've stopped proving and started doing. You've protected your habits in private. You've endured struggles alone and grown from them. Now the time has come for the natural conclusion of all that quiet work. Let your results speak. Because results are the only language the world truly respects. People don't remember your promises. They don't remember your posts. They don't remember your explanations. What they remember is what you built. The book you wrote. The skill you mastered. The business you launched. The body you transformed. The peace you cultivated. That's what lasts. That's what speaks. Talking about your plans may impress people for a moment, but results silence every doubt. Nobody argues with evidence. Nobody debates with undeniable proof. That's why the final move isn't about announcing success. It's about embodying it. Quiet effort always looks invisible until the day it becomes impossible to ignore. This doesn't mean you brag when you arrive. It means you don't need to. You carry yourself differently because you are different. You don't explain what you did. Your presence explains it. The strength in your posture, the sharpness of your thinking, the stability of your life, all of it communicates what words never could. Remember this: the loudest person in the room is rarely the strongest. Real strength doesn't need noise. Real success doesn't need validation. Real achievement doesn't need a marketing campaign. It carries itself. It radiates. It's undeniable. The beauty of this stage is that you stop caring about recognition altogether. By the time results arrive, you've already built inner confidence from years of silence. You no longer need applause to feel worthy. You no longer crave validation to feel secure. You already know who you are and what you've built. Recognition becomes extra, not essential. And here's another hidden gift. Silence shields your future. When you don't announce every move, no one can interfere. No one can sabotage what they don't see. No one can speak doubt into plans they never heard. Your privacy becomes your protection. While others are busy broadcasting, you're busy building. And by the time they notice, it's too late to stop you. This is maturity. This is focus. This is sovereignty over your own path. Winning big without announcements isn't just strategy. It's a way of life. It shows you've outgrown the need to prove anyone wrong. It shows you've stopped seeking revenge through recognition. You've reached a point where the progress itself is the reward. The freedom, the options, the confidence. That's the victory. Now pause and imagine yourself a few years from now. Imagine the discipline you've stacked daily. Imagine the habits that have become part of your identity. Imagine the strength you've built in silence, the resilience you forged in private, the progress nobody saw until it was undeniable. That future version of you doesn't need to explain, doesn't need to defend, doesn't need to speak loudly, because the results do all the talking. And when people finally see it, they'll think it happened fast. But you'll know the truth. It didn't happen overnight. It happened in quiet mornings, in long evenings, in choices nobody noticed, in sacrifices nobody applauded, in habits nobody tracked but you. You'll know it was built in silence. This is the silent path to victory. Not glamorous, not loud, not rushed, but lasting. And when it arrives, it will carry a power no words could ever match. So let your results become your loudest statement. Let your life itself be the answer to every doubt. You owe no updates, only outcomes. You owe no performance, only progress. You owe no explanations, only evidence. Daily, quietly, relentlessly, that is the formula. And as we close this journey, carry this one charge forward. Choose one habit today and practice it without telling anyone. Build in silence. Win in public. Let your results speak. The journey we've taken has been simple, but not easy. It began with a contrarian idea that silence is not weakness, but the ultimate performance enhancer. In a world obsessed with showing off, with talking before doing, with announcing before achieving, silence stands as a rebellion. It is the power move most people overlook. From the first step, deciding in silence, you learned that real change begins when you stop performing for approval and start committing to yourself. That inner vow is the seed from which all transformation grows. Then came daily discipline, the quiet grind that separates dreamers from doers. Not glamorous, not flashy, but steady. Discipline is the architecture of success. We then faced the trap of proving yourself. You saw that the need for validation is a thief of energy, and that true strength comes from focusing on improvement, not appearances. From there, we entered the hidden realm of private habits, roots that grow strongest when protected from premature exposure. Your habits, guarded in silence, shape your identity until they become automatic. But no journey is complete without fire. Struggles come, and you learn to handle them alone. Not for sympathy, not for performance, but for resilience. Every hardship faced in silence forged grit that no applause could give you. It was in the darkest hours that you built the strongest core. And finally, you arrived here. Results as the loudest voice. You no longer need to talk. You no longer need to announce. You no longer need to prove. The evidence of your life becomes the undeniable testimony. Outcomes, not updates. Progress, not performance. Strength, not show. The cadence of this path slows here. You don't need to rush. You don't need to scream. It will be seen. It will be felt. It will be undeniable. The inversion becomes clear. Not announced, but revealed. Not fast, but lasting. Not loud, but unshakable. So here is the after image to carry with you. Others may think your rise was sudden, but you will know it was built in silence. They may think it was luck, but you will know it was discipline. They may think it was talent, but you will know it was persistence. Your charge is simple. Choose one habit today. Practice it privately. Guard it jealously. Nurture it quietly. And let time reveal what words never could. Because real success does not scream. It does not beg to be seen. It simply shows up. Calm, undeniable, built to last. And when it does, it will feel different. It will feel earned. And it will feel yours. So go, daily, quietly, relentlessly. Build in silence. Win in public. And let your results speak everything that needed to be said.